Most people in the small desert towns of New Mexico believed rumors long before they believed people. And the woman who walked into town that cold evening carried more rumors than luggage. They called her the Black Widow, a name whispered like a warning, a shadow she never asked for but could never outrun. So when she knocked on the rancher's door after sunset, dusty boots dragging and voice small from exhaustion, everyone expected the worst. They thought he'd turn her away like the others. But the rancher, a quiet man named Luke Hartley, simply looked her in the eyes, really looked, and saw something no one else bothered to see, a human being who needed help. And that's where this story begins, with a simple act of kindness that changed everything. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you enjoy meaningful storytelling that touches the heart, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Soul Tales. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories your way. The desert sky was turning purple when Mara, known in 4 different towns as the Black Widow, reached the old Hartley ranch. Her hands trembled from the cold. She hadn't slept indoors in 3 nights, and her throat was dry from walking miles just trying to avoid people who judged her before she ever spoke. But Luke didn't know anything about the rumors. He hadn't been to town in weeks, and even if he had, he wasn't the type of man who paid attention to gossip. When he opened the door, he found a woman wrapped in a worn black shawl, hair wild from the wind, eyes tired but strangely brave. "Sorry to bother you," she said softly, "but I need a place to stay. Just for the night, I can pay." Luke studied her for a moment. Then he stepped aside without hesitation. "Come in," he said. "You can rest here." Inside, the ranch house was old but warm. A gentle fire crackled in the corner, casting amber light across the wooden walls. It felt like a place built from years of quiet strength. Nothing fancy, just honest. Mara exhaled shakily, grateful in a way she didn't know how to express. Luke pointed toward the back hallway. "I only have 1 room set up," he said. "And it's only got 1 bed. Hope that's all right." Mara lifted her chin and gave a small, tired smile. "That's perfect," she whispered. "I'm not afraid." She wasn't. Not of the dark, not of sleeping alone, not of the rumors. What she feared most was people. But for the first time in a long time, someone wasn't looking at her like she was dangerous. Luke grabbed a spare blanket. "You can take the bed, I'll sleep on the couch." But Mara shook her head quickly. "No, you've already done enough, I'll take the couch." Luke hesitated. "You look like you haven't slept in days." She swallowed hard. "I haven't." That settled it. Luke placed the blanket on the bed and nodded. "Then take it, please." And something inside Mara, something she thought had died long ago, softened. Mara's nickname followed her like a curse. Years ago, her husband had died suddenly. Then, 2 years later, her second husband passed in an accident at the mill. People didn't see tragedy. They saw patterns. They saw assumptions. And assumptions turned into stories. The Black Widow. Bad luck, dangerous, trouble. She lost jobs, lost friends, lost a place to call home, all because fear spreads faster than truth. Luke didn't know any of that when he offered her a warm meal that night. "You're welcome to stay for dinner," he said simply. She hesitated, staring at the bowl of stew he placed in front of her. "Why are you being kind to me?" Luke shrugged. "You knocked. You needed help. That's reason enough." Tears stung her eyes, but she hid them quickly. Over dinner, they talked in gentle, careful sentences, like strangers laying down bricks of trust, one at a time. Luke learned that Mara used to sew for a living, that she loved the desert sunsets, that she carried a small silver locket with a picture of her mother inside. Mara learned that Luke lived alone after losing his father years earlier, that he ran the ranch by himself, that kindness came naturally to him, the same way stillness comes to the desert after the sun dips low. Later, when Mara lay in the warm bed, staring at the ceiling, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Not because of the walls around her, but because of the kindness that filled the space. At dawn, Luke found Mara outside feeding his old horse, Jasper. She moved gently, speaking softly to the animal like they'd known each other forever. "You're good with him," Luke said. "I used to have a horse growing up," she replied. "He was my best friend." Luke took a breath. "You're welcome to stay another day if you need to." Mara froze, shocked. You don't want me to leave? Luke lifted his eyebrows. Why would I? She swallowed. You don't know who I am. Then tell me, he said, calm, steady, patient. And she did. She told him everything. The losses, the rumors, the names people called her, the towns she could no longer return to. Luke listened. Really listened. Without flinching, without recoiling, without glowing judgment in his eyes. When she finished, her shoulders sagged like she'd been carrying a boulder finally set down. Luke simply said, I'm sorry people treated you that way. No one deserves that. Mara blinked rapidly, fighting tears. But you're not scared? She whispered. Of you? He shook his head. No, because I judge people by how they act, not by what others say. And that moment, small, quiet, full of truth, changed Mara more than any rumor ever could. Days passed. Then a week. Mara helped with the ranch chores, cooked meals, repaired old blankets, and restored the porch swing with her clever hands. Luke, in return, taught her how to ride again, how to mend fences, how to breathe in the slow, beautiful rhythm of country life. She laughed for the first time in years. A real laugh. The kind that surprised both of them. The town still whispered when Luke came in for supplies, and they saw Mara beside him. But Luke didn't pay them any mind, and his steady presence gave Mara strength she didn't know she had. People slowly began noticing her kindness. The way she helped the elderly woman across the street, the way she sewed clothes for kids in need, the way she smiled at everyone with warmth, even if they didn't smile back. Kindness softens even the hardest stories, and soon, so did the truth. One afternoon, a man from town approached Luke. You know, he said nervously, I think we were wrong about her. Luke simply nodded. Took you long enough. One stormy night, a young boy got trapped out near the canyon. The whole town panicked. Search parties formed quickly, but the wind was fierce, and visibility was awful. Mara didn't hesitate. She knew the terrain from days exploring on horseback. She grabbed Jasper, wrapped herself in a coat, and rode out into the storm. It took hours, but she found the boy, shivering, scared, tangled among the rocks. She lifted him onto Jasper and rode back, her clothes soaked, her cheeks raw from the cold wind. The entire town watched as she carried the boy home, and something inside them shifted. The rumors finally broke, and truth took their place. The sheriff approached her afterward. Mara, I'm sorry for all of it. She nodded, tears streaking through the dust on her face. It's okay. People fear what they don't understand. But we understand now, he said gently. Later that night, Luke found Mara sitting on the porch swing she'd repaired, staring out into the quiet dark. You saved that boy, he said softly. I just did what anyone should have done. No, Luke said, sitting beside her. You did what kind people do. Mara swallowed. Luke, why were you never afraid of me? He turned to her, eyes steady. Because kindness recognizes. Kindness, even when it's buried under hurt. Her breath caught in her throat. No one had ever said something so simple, yet so healing. Mara whispered, You saved me too, you know. Luke smiled gently. Maybe we saved each other. Months later, the Hartley Ranch became a place people spoke of differently, not with fear, not with gossip, but with gratitude. Because kindness, real kindness, has a way of planting roots that grow into something beautiful. Mara was no longer the Black Widow. She was a seamstress again, a neighbor, a friend, a woman who finally belonged. And Luke? He remained the quiet rancher who opened his door without judgment, proving that a single act of compassion can rewrite someone's whole life story. This tale reminds us of something simple but powerful. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about seeing people, not the rumors, not the mistakes, not the shadows, but the human heart beneath it all. So the next time someone knocks on your door, literal or figurative, may you pause long enough to choose compassion, because you never know whose life you might change, and sometimes you might just change your own.